Good morning. I think we've now got 22 or 23 participants, and I think that's in broad order who we're expecting. So we will start and people will join as and when. My name is David Smith, Planning Director of IM Properties and your chair for this, our webinar launch of the Mercia Park Employment Scheme, a copy of which should have landed in your inbox yesterday. We recognise that these are challenging times to say the least, and we're grateful to you for making Zoom time in, I'm sure, an incredibly congested diary. The fundamental purpose of today is to brief you, our potential partners, on our Mercia Park project, and more specifically, our employment and skills proposition. We realise that building relationships is key to delivering anything. Participants will no doubt have varying degrees of knowledge of IM Properties or the project, and for this reason our briefing will take in an overview of IM Properties, the project, before turning to our lead contractor, the employment scheme, and details of our ambition and the framework for delivery. We will conclude with an opportunity for questions. I'm joined this morning by representatives of the IM Properties project team, our employment and skills lead, Steve Farr, an independent employment consultant, and the Winvic team. I will ask each to introduce themselves before speaking. Before any of that, a few housekeeping matters. I am a Zoom novice, so anything could happen. If you have any issues, don't panic. We will be recording this and sharing the session so you can pick up where you left off. The chat function is not enabled. The question function is. If you would like to submit a question, query or matter for clarification through that function, please do so, and we will return to this at the end and seek to ensure one of our speakers responds. Participants may also be wondering who else is on the webinar and how they were selected. A brief note on this: we largely took our cue from North West Leicestershire District Council, who reached out to 5 local authorities and sought their help to identify local employment support and training service delivery organisations. There has also been engagement with DWP, who, given the complexity of the geography, have determined their initial leads at this stage. Finally, there were a handful of other good contact referrals, which we have added to the mix. There were a handful of other organisations, LEPs, county councils, that we felt at the present time we would not prioritise, given our immediate priority is to focus on frontline employment and skills delivery partners, but we will be involving them and sharing this presentation. In terms of timing, we're looking at a series of presentations for 40 minutes with 20 minutes allocated for question and answer session thereafter. If we run over, we're happy to do so. If we don't, we will finish early. Emily, next slide. So who are IM Properties? Is that working? Big pause. In short, we form part of the IM Group, a business in existence for over 40 years, and with a core focus on the importation and distribution of cars, principally Subaru, Isuzu, and Citroën, hence the international motors in IMP. The group has interests across Europe and China. As the group has diversified its business interests, property has become a central facet of the business, spanning site promotion, development, and investment. Importantly, we're privately and family owned, providing flexibility to deliver on our ambitions. Lord Edmiston maintains a healthy interest in the group as chairman, with his son Andrew, the managing director. We've established strong roots in the West Midlands, and last year we're fortunate enough to relocate to some fantastic offices in Solihull to facilitate HS2. Emily? Development, and in particular the delivery of industrial logistics facilities, forms a considerable part of our activity. Having delivered flagship projects such as Birch Coppice at junction 10 of the M42, we are actively promoting projects in excess of 1,000 acres, with a number of projects, of which Mercia Park is one, benefiting from planning permission and, more importantly, being on site. We see our future as very bright. We are in a sector that is increasingly recognised as a key part of the national infrastructure, serving business and households alike. Rarely has this been more apparent than during the course of the current pandemic. As a business, we celebrate the industrial and logistics sector for its many virtues, being an increasingly sophisticated and innovative sector, delivering diverse, inspiring, and rewarding opportunities. Emily? Geographically, our prime portfolio predominantly spans the Midlands, though we have others in key markets such as the M1 South. Wherever we go, we're committed to seeking to ensure the locations and communities in which we invest can share in the rewards that development can bring. This is particularly important given, like any development projects, such projects can court controversy. IM Properties' mantra is mirrored by the group's mandate to give something back. Prosperity in cars and property has allowed our owner to invest heavily in his Christian Vision charity, and through the Grace Foundation, a succession of academies whose sole purpose is to transform the lives of young people through holistic education. More recently and explicitly associated with the 2 development projects we are promoting, we have launched a community fund that will deliver in excess of £500,000 to support disadvantaged communities and community cohesion. The Mercia Park Community Fund will begin issuing grants from October this year, supported by a number of representatives from our recently established community liaison group. And so to the project. Emily. Hopefully, this image allows you to orientate yourself. The site lies just off junction 11 of the M42 at its transition to the A42 on the right-hand side of the screen. The project comprises in the order of 3.5 million square feet of industrial and logistics floor space, including 2 1 million square feet buildings. These are a rare commodity in the Midlands, and along with the site's location, have underpinned the site's attractiveness to our occupiers. The project was substantially pre-let before we secured planning permission in October 2019. It will provide a high-quality home to leading international businesses JLR and DSV. In JLR's case, the development will deliver a 2.94 million global distribution campus for their aftermarket parts. It will act as a single point of receipt of parts from suppliers and their dispatch to retailers. The logistics are complex, with over 1,500 suppliers and 2,000 retailers worldwide, covering a movement of 170,000 different parts across 80 countries. The site will allow JLR to consolidate its aftermarket distribution from 10 buildings into a new campus facility to critically address efficiency and productivity. In DSV's case, this Denmark-headquartered global transport and logistics business is aiming to consolidate and build on its success of its existing facility in Kingsbury near Tamworth, just 1 junction down, delivering a 490,000 square foot campus for its UK Road, Air and Sea and Connect contract logistics operations. It is anticipated that the park will support approximately 3,400 jobs when fully occupied and make a substantial contribution to the local economy's annual GVA. It is not for now, but at a point in time, attention will turn to how our occupiers engage with the employment scheme and complement our activities and endeavours at the construction stage. I touched earlier on the project's geography and likely impact area. Socioeconomic assessment work undertaken as part of the planning application indicated that the project would have effects across varying spatial scales. Taking into account the site's location, commuting patterns, and analysis of place of work, it was determined that the majority of those effects would be captured within the 6 local authority areas defined on this map. These are described as the local impact area, and this underpins North West Leicestershire Council's approach to framing the employment scheme. More of that later. Should any participants wish to see the socio-economic assessment work undertaken in connection with the application, please contact us afterwards. So where are we now? In May this year, in the face of considerable economic uncertainty, we took the decision to commence work on and off-site and contracted with Winvic Construction to proceed with a £24 million infrastructure contract covering the full 238 acres, and with a utilities contractor to proceed with a £25 million off-site utility installation and reinforcement works, circa £50 million worth of infrastructure improvements. The image conveys the scale of the infrastructure required to bring this site forward, and I think it's fair to say that we're extremely pleased with progress to date. In due course, infrastructure will lead to buildings, and in combination, the development will deliver a wide range of construction requirements and potential opportunities, many of which are captured on this slide. It's important to say that in bringing our developments forward, we're continually looking to explore how we can deliver and maximise outputs and maximise the opportunity for local business and workforce. As a benchmark, and again referencing the assessment work which accompanied the planning application, it is estimated that nearly 1,500 person years of direct employment through the construction phase that could be supported by our investment. At the peak, we estimate in excess of 500 full-time equivalent construction jobs on site per annum. This is in the context of an estimated £250 million construction spend across the whole project. In terms of the employment scheme, its origins lie within the legal obligations associated with the grant of planning permission in October 2019. That document established a broad intent as set out here to maximise the proportion of construction workers in the local impact area, training for construction workers where there is employment deprivation, and a preference for procuring goods and services locally. This is subsequently developed and tested with key partners from within the council as the lead authority, North Warwickshire and South Leicestershire College, Stevenson's College, alongside DWP, and the scheme was approved in June 2020. We have cascaded this early dialogue into our contracts with Winvic. I'm going to take a break there and ask if Steve could introduce himself and pick up the baton.
Hello everybody, thanks David. We've got planning permission, we've got planning conditions, and we've got an agreed employment scheme. Just a little bit more about who I am. My background is 5 years in the voluntary sector and over 25 years, 27 actually, at Birmingham City Council, doing exactly this, bringing jobs and skills, supply and demand together to benefit local people. Big and small projects, people know about Bullring and New Street Station and all those things, but also smaller projects and construction projects, house building and so forth. So newly created jobs, but also churning the labour market. The employment scheme aims to capture the construction phase employment and training opportunities and enable job seeker customers to access and make the most of these opportunities. In my experience, the best way to make undertakings like this a success for local people is to ensure that we're providing employers with really good services, so employer-facing services. Employers will cooperate if they feel as though they can see the mutual benefit in doing so. When it comes to bringing people forward to take advantage of those opportunities, this is where you come in as local organisations. We want to work with you in order to make this employment scheme a success. We can't do it without you, is the point, I guess. It requires a positive approach from the employers, from you as job matching services and training providers, and from the individuals coming forward. You know, they've got to want to do it. They've got to have the right attitudes and behaviours to think of a career in construction in the built environment. So it's everybody doing what we say we will. And in order to coordinate the effort, we're setting up a local employment skills partnership, and David's invited me to champion that group to try and bring that together and make it work. Next slide, Emily, please. So just a bit about the operational context for the employment scheme. Well, we've written it prior to and during the coronavirus situation, and obviously that does now represent some challenges. The site and all activities associated with it will be operated in accordance with Government and Public Health England guidelines and Construction Leadership Council site operating procedures aimed at protecting the workforce, colleagues, families and the population. So this might represent some challenges, certainly in the short term, but we'll seek to overcome and work through those and deliver a successful employment scheme. David's already showed us the very helpful map, which shows I just want to reiterate the priority impact area, local impact area being the priority. This means we want to attract job seekers from the area and local businesses to benefit from the investment. So just to be clear about the 6 local authority areas, it's Hinckley and Bosworth, it's Lichfield, it's North West Leicestershire, it's North Warwickshire, South Derbyshire and Tamworth. Now the complexity of the geography of that local impact area isn't lost on us in terms of some organisations have got administrative areas and ways of working. So, I mean, DWP is the obvious one, where that geography represents a challenge in terms of everybody being involved and briefed and up to speed with what's happening. But we're hopeful that the way we've constructed this employment scheme and the idea of an employment skills partnership to work in the reality of that geography will overcome those issues. David's already outlined the planning requirements, and those are sort of set in stone, so to speak, and we will work to achieve and deliver those. So that's the context for the employment scheme. Just moving on to, and I know you've got the document and you might be scanning through it or want to read it in detail, but you're very welcome to ask any questions after you've done that. So what does the scheme deliver? Well, first thing to say is iron Properties and the principal contractor, Winvic, and the supply chain are committed to the employment scheme. It's really important that it's coming from the top, and it's a commitment from the hearts and minds of the businesses. We will support people who show an interest in Mercia Park and the jobs and skills and careers linked to building an employment park. We need to understand that these are commercial units and they're not houses, so that it's not about bricks and mortar and lots of carpentry and plumbing. We need to understand the trades that are required to put the infrastructure in place and build these buildings. And we will distribute information on those matters, on that, to give your frontline staff an insight and a heads up into the sorts of opportunities that they will be and the sorts of people that the employers are looking for. So we will seek to capture the opportunities, which means talk to all of the employers and all of the subcontractors and say, what sort of people do you need, or who have you got, have you got the gaps, and how can you help us deliver this employment scheme, provide opportunities for people. So those are the goals of the employment scheme. But I said it before and I'll say it again, we can't do it without you. We need to bring the right people forward who want to take advantage of these opportunities. So we're going to create a network across the 6 local authority areas so that when opportunities are available, they can get distributed quickly out to the people that might want to hear about them. And also with enough lead-in time, we know lead-in time is really important for you in this work, that you have enough time to support those individuals, in making their applications to come forward. And that's the end point for my first part of the contribution here, David.
Thanks, Steve. Well, hopefully that provides a good starter for 10 in terms of intent and to a degree way of working. With that in mind, I'd ask that Rebecca and Matt introduce themselves and the Winvic business to our audience, its role and approach, and also the construction state of play.
Great, thanks, David. My name's Rebecca Schwartz. I am the HR and training manager for Winvic Construction. I've been with Winvic for 5 years. My role in this sort of part of the project is really to ensure that planning conditions we have across all of our projects, that we are doing as much as we can and really helping out in the sort of local impact areas. So I will be looking at training and employment, whether that be Winvic through our supply chain, and really helping out as much as we can. So a bit about us. Some of you will probably know a bit about Winvic. Some we may be new to you. So our background, we were formed in 2001. We're still privately owned by the guys who set the business up. They are very hands-on. and really supportive of the sort of work that we're doing across employment and skills strategies. As of Monday, we have 363 permanent members of staff, and we are supplemented by freelance staff as well. And freelancers come in a number of areas across the business. It could be quantity surveyors, we have freelance planners, engineers, site managers, so a number of areas across our business. The sectors that we work in are industrial, multi-room, so student accommodation, private rental scheme, offices and commercial, civils and infrastructure, fit out, retail and leisure. We have successfully delivered over 55 million square feet of industrial space on time and on budget, and successfully delivered, I have not counted these myself, 4,631 multi-room beds to date, with another 3,744 beds currently under construction. We have received 1 outstanding and 12 BREEAM excellent rated industrial projects for the last 2 years, which we're really proud of. BREEAM is the world's leading sustainability assessment method, where projects are assessed against environmental, social, economical, sustainability and performance. And this provides independent certification that demonstrates the wider benefits to individuals, to businesses, society and to the environment. The next slide is, I'm now going to talk about the Winvic Way. This is our ethos of working, and again something that's totally led from the top down by the owners of our business, and that we all believe in and work to every single day. The Winvic Way originally came about when we first started building back in 2001. We have always built where we put the yard down very early on in the build process. Back in 2001, we were the only company that was doing that. You know, we've seen a few other people try. Some are not so successful. Some are managing to do it. Over time, the Winvic Way has evolved and it has grown. And we spend quite a lot of time actually working with all of our colleagues as well to make sure that the Winvic Way is still relevant and people know what we're talking about. What we've done is clarify it with the 5 key points you can see here of respect, loyalty, honesty, challenging and questioning, and having a passion and a pride in what we do. And it's a respect for all of our colleagues, a respect for our suppliers, our communities, the environment and our customers, which really kind of ties back into the BREEAM that I just explained, how important that is for us, for all of our colleagues that we're working with and for the wider areas that we're working in. A loyalty to our customers, to each other and our suppliers. The Winvic Way at its heart means that we're doing the right thing, we do it right, and we look after everyone that we're working with. Honesty, allowing us to tackle difficult conversations. So we'll be in touch with all of our partners that we're working with. We will be in touch with all of our local authorities in this project that we're working with. You know, we're hoping to build good relationships with a number of education providers across the area as well, and really start trying to grow those relationships. For me, so my 5 years with Winvic, the really 2 outstanding points have been the challenging questioning and a passion and a pride. We're not a company that's standing still. We are a company that prides itself on pushing the boundaries, making sure that we're doing things as well as we can, and asking people, can we do things better? You know, we invite people to come and tell us how they think we can change things, whether that be, you know, our clients that we work with, whether it be yourselves as local education, local authority areas that we work with, education providers. You know, we want to hear if there's anything that we can do better. We have a number of placement students who work that we bring in every year from universities, and again, we get them involved in it and ask them, as kind of those that are on the cutting edge of what's going on out there, can we do things better? Tell us what we can do and how we can improve. And a passion and a pride is our winning mentality. I hope that you'll see as you start to work more closely with us that people working for Winvic, we are really proud to work for this business. We build some absolutely amazing projects, and we all feel that we have a really big part to play in them. The next slide that I'm going to move on to is just a few examples of some areas that we've got involved in other projects, and areas that are hoping we'll be able to replicate similar things in Mercia Park. So the first slide is with Steve Young, who's one of our senior engineers, and he took a number of students from Nottingham Trent University out on a site visit around East Midlands Gateway. And we've done that for the last sort of 3 or 4 years over at East Midlands Gateway. We invite students to come in, whether they be civil engineering students, construction management students, you know, from a number of disciplines, to come out and actually see what happens on a working site. Quite often we get feedback is that students don't get the opportunity to go and visit a live project and see what happens day to day. So we love getting them involved and invite them to come in and see what we do. The second photo that's Olivia Radford, one of our QSs. And every year we get involved in the Women in the Built Environment. We go along and present to it, and again, try and encourage women to get involved in construction. Another area of feedback that we get back is that women are not so involved in this. So we're really involved, and we try and, you know, visit as many places as we can to actually say to women out there, these are the brilliant careers that are available in construction. You know, come and find out about us, and we can tell you what we can do, what the careers are available to you. The third slide was Ian Goodhead, who's our Health and Safety Environmental Quality Director, attended a presentation with the LEP, which was to increase the awareness of Leicestershire's key employment sectors. This was attended by schools and colleges, so we had the opportunity to say to educators out there, this is where our industry is going, this is where our sector's going. And again, this is the broad range of careers that are available to people. Construction is not just about, you know, laying bricks. There's a whole host of careers out there that people probably, you know, may not have even heard of. And let's start telling people the brilliant opportunities that are out there. Fourth picture is, again, getting students involved, where we support the ICE, so the Institute of Civil Engineers. We invite their Bridge to Schools project, where students of varying ages are invited to come in and build a large-scale model of a bridge. And they work with engineers, so it'll be engineers from a number of different companies get involved, but we send a handful of hours along to go and help the students and actually see and think about what goes into building something like a bridge. And then the final one is Ivor Goodsite, or that, no, that's Honour Goodsite. So we have Ivor Goodsite and Honour Goodsite, who go out and visit. They tend to be for the younger students, go out and visit, and again, explain about health and safety on a site, tell them everything that happens on a site, but just to make it a bit more fun for the younger students as well, that we like to get involved in, so that maybe we can get students thinking from a younger age, actually, construction is a really good industry to get into. And that's for me, thank you.
Matt,
Cool.
if you'd like to pick up from there, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, David. Thanks, Rebecca. My name's Matt Dalton. I'm the Managing Quantity Surveyor on the Civils and Infrastructure side of Winvic. I've been with us 3 years, and I'll be the commercial lead on the Mercia Park role. The works commenced officially on site on the 1st of June. We were there a couple of weeks earlier, just establishing our site compound. We are a management contractor who construct the work using our established supply chain, many of whom are based within the wider impact area. Therefore, we'll hopefully be looking for employees within the local area. The works on site consist of a number of elements, with a construction expected for the next 2.5 years. As mentioned by David earlier, we've got the off-site statutory undertaker works. We've got the on-site infrastructure, which we're currently undertaking. We're going to have the vertical build with DSV and Land Rover, and then the fit out of those respective buildings once they're constructed. The current phase of works, as I said, is the off-site undertaker and the on-site infrastructure, of which it consists of the installation of utilities on the off-site roads, and on-site we have bulk earthworks, which you can see on the picture there with the machines lined up, drainage, curbing, ducting, footpaths, surfacing, street lighting and signage. One key element to do with the bulk earthworks is 850,000 cube of material is cut to fill on the site. Without this material remaining on site, the scheme would not be feasible due to the programme implications and the environmental impacts with disposal, import and vehicle movements both on site and within the local area. The current work packages that we have let is the bulk earthworks, which is Collins Earthworks, and the groundworks, which is JSJ. Collins are based within the wider impact area, and they actually have their own training company taking people from school leavers from the age of 16 and up to train them up to drive tractors, excavators, dump trucks, rollers, and they heavily invest in that. And as reiterated by David earlier, we are putting the planning document about local employment into all our subcontractors' documentation. And as we procure more and more, there'll be more opportunities coming online. So one success, I don't know, have we got the next slide, Emily? Is great stuff. Well, so I've touched on the key subcontractors and the supply chain. What we have to do as part of our obligations as main contractor is we have a monthly progress report, and we will feed back any local engagement, local CVs received, both as Winvic Direct and as our supply chain who feed to us if anyone's been approached by that. One early success that we've had as a project is our security firm were contacted, and we've employed a gate man who actually lives in Appleby Magna. So we've already had early positive success with that. And just as a note on COVID, we as a business are continuing really to undertake our projects despite what's going on globally. And we've committed to setting up our sites to ensure that social distancing can be maintained whilst programme is maintained. And our health and safety team do undertake regular site inspections and award COVID-19 compliance certificates, of which even after being on site and operational for 5 days, Mercia Park actually achieved that level. So it's a really big bonus and shows that we can continue to work in the current conditions. If there's a bit more, any insight, please ask, and you want some more information, please feel free to ask some questions. I'll hand back to David.
Thanks, Matt. That's very, very helpful, and I'm sure there's a lot more to add to that going forwards. At this point, if I can return to Steve to put a bit more flesh on the bones of the employment scheme, and I think also, Steve, you're going to outline 1 or 2 specific initiatives that we're looking at, which we're very hopeful will deliver some good impact.
Right, thank you very much. So the next section is very much about putting the words into action. We've heard a lot of really great things from Rebecca, in particular about some of the things that Winvic's experienced in delivering as well. And obviously where we're up to, from Matt's perspective in terms of the contractors that are on site and so forth, and how it will unfold going forward. So the point is that we're going to try to make available, jobs where there are paid jobs, apprenticeship opportunities, or opportunities for people to, complete their apprenticeship training, internships. We'll look at that, and obviously placements and work experience as well. So we'll speak to the employers as they become engaged, and actually be part of that engagement process with them. The other thing we're doing is actively exploring the idea of on-site training, at Mercia Park, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. We'll work with you to line up site visits for people that can benefit from that. So there might be young people at school, or possibly sixth forms and FE level, or universities, as Rebecca's referred to. When the opportunities come out for paid roles, or these other opportunities, we need you as organisations to respond quickly to that, and to really think who can benefit from this opportunity as it's presented, you know, at the moment. So it's really important for you to respond quickly to opportunities, and that we can find the right people that can benefit. It's about matching. It's a matching process, and I know you're all familiar with that. Like all employers, you know, construction sector is no different. People are wanting individuals who've got the right approach to work, the right attitudes and behaviours. Those are the most important things. Obviously, people might need to have some qualifications or some ticketing to get, you know, to drive certain bits of equipment or whatever. But the most important thing, you know, to bring forward in people is people who, you know, who are going to become good employees substantially. If you're working with individuals who are seeking to work and opportunities to try things, you know, please agree to join the Mercia Park network that we're setting up, so that you can receive information and progress reports, and most importantly, the opportunities, so that you can get that information to the frontline staff and the clients that are interested in pursuing the opportunities. We will, as I say, set up an employment skills partnership to coordinate this, but we want to ensure that there's good representation across the geographical area, i.e. all 6 local authority areas in that partnership. So we're making sure that all of the communities across the piece are accessing and can access opportunities. So the next slide, please, Emily. Just a little bit more about on-site training. We've got dedicated site, part of the site set aside, you know, by the entrance to the site, you know, as part of the compound. You know, that won't be impacted upon by the buildings as they take shape. So, you know, we're talking about a period of, you know, up to 2 years perhaps, where we could do some really interesting things. What CITB and other organisations are, you know, pushing the idea of, if you take the learners to real work settings, such as on-site training, construction, it makes the whole thing more realistic for them. It can be a real motivator as well, and that's why we're interested to pursue this. It also gives some of the training providers, the colleges, and you know, space to do stuff. So groundworks training and civil engineering sort of training, which, you know, historically colleges and others have struggled to find the land to do those kind of things. So that's why it's a sort of perfect marriage between existing provision but doing it in a slightly different way. And in order to move that forward, we've been looking at good practice where there is other on-site training, and some models of, you know, how to do things really well. There's a project called, it's referenced on the slide there, Civil Engineering Training Centre in Hampshire, which we've looked at a couple of times. They've done some really interesting things. Now, you know, this is all being developed by North Warwickshire and South Leicestershire College, who are leading this exploration for us. And we should know where we stand, you know, within the next few weeks, you know, certainly by the autumn, you know, what's going to be possible in terms of the working with the employers that are going to engage in this, and you know, and that should be really exciting. We'll be able to see what we can do together. Next slide. So just a little bit about the Employment and Skills Partnership. We just need to be careful, you know, to be realistic and manage the expectations. I mentioned earlier that the types of trades and types of jobs that there'll be, types of trades. We don't want people to think, you know, they're going to be laying bricks all day, because that's quite unlikely to happen. So we just need to be sure that people, you know, certainly your frontline staff, have got information at their fingertips as to, you know, what's going on at Mercia Park and what sorts of things are there opportunities for. We're not envisaging lots of meetings. We're envisaging, you know, coming together occasionally, but to focus on particular topics or to look at key issues. You know, if we maybe launch an on-site training facility, but whatever it is, it would be focused and topical and useful. We want the participants in the partnership to get something from it, but also to shape the provision and shape a little bit about what we do. I think the other thing about the partnership is it's an important, opportunity for you as local organisations to interface with significant companies in the construction sector and their supply chain. So it's about talking to businesses and understanding their needs and finding, ways to deliver the sorts of things that they want and will work with you on. Who will be on the partnership? Well, it will be IMP and Winvic and some of the main subcontractors where their work packages are active and live. We will invite into a conversation representatives of the 6 local authorities, obviously Department for Work and Pensions, the relevant job centres, possibly organisations like National Careers Service and the local FE colleges, possibly others. But we're very keen that it's organisations coming along because they can see some benefit in the conversation and will participate in it and put something in. Really important, I've got to mention Heather Bell from the Business Focus team at North West Leicestershire District Council. Heather is going to be the first point of contact, if you like, between this process and certainly all the public sector partners, partly because there are so many organisations out there. You need to have a single point of reference, and so do we. So Heather's agreed to play that role for us, and that's really, really fantastic. So another role for the partnership is to celebrate success. Part of what we're trying to do here, where we have individual good news stories, and Matt referred to Mike, the gateman who lives at Appleby Magna, partly this is about inspiring other people to want to show an interest in the opportunities and this industry. We know the construction sector faces many challenges. We need more people to come into construction sector. We've got to make it more attractive to people. We've got to explain fantastic career development opportunities for people in order to make that so. So I think there's a role for the partnership in celebrating success, banging the drum a bit and helping us to review and evaluate how it's gone and how it's going. My final slide is, so what can you do now? Well, you can be doing some stuff right now. I mean, think of people that you're working with, your customers, people that are on your books, who are interested in these types of roles in the construction sector, in the built environment. There are professional careers. Rebecca's mentioned estimators and QSs and others, project managers. It's an exciting sector. There's a lot going on, as we know. You have a high speed 2 and other things. So it's a really great time to attract people into these opportunities. So we need to tell them about Mercia Park, that it's live now. As I say, identify people that you think might want to work there. Quite importantly, a lot of people in the sector don't have current CVs. They've been recruited through word of mouth sometimes in the past, or they don't think a CV is relevant. Well, it's just a good way to get people to think about their experience, what they can do, and how they can tell people about what they can do. So brush up people's CVs, help them get them ready, because some of the subcontractors will say, well, ping across a CV. If you've got to spend 3 weeks writing your CV, it can be too late. So you can begin that work now, and I know a lot of you are already doing that kind of thing. Finally, it's just identify the people in your organisation that you want to receive information. You can go to as many frontline people as you want to. Everybody can receive stuff by email. It doesn't have to be through a single point of contact. We need names, emails, contact mobile numbers or whatever. And obviously for those people to agree for that from a GDPR purpose, that they can be held on a mailing list. And finally, in terms of mobilising on the employment scheme, we will have some kind of site visit. We'll invite organisations to that so you can see it, and have some kind of event in the autumn to, as the first meeting of the Employment Skills Partnership. I hope that sounds interesting and exciting, because I think it really is. And I'll hand back to David there.
Thanks, Steve. Really good. Thank you very much indeed for that overview. Just to reinforce the point that Steve's made in terms of the useful contacts. In the short term, that is going to be Heather Bell at North West Leicestershire District Council, and you can see her contact details on the screen here. And obviously Steve himself will be very much involved in the day-to-day dealings on our behalf, trying to match, encourage and ensure that we deliver on our objectives set out in the employment scheme, with Steve being a key part of the author of that document. I'm sure that those contacts will grow, and we will add into that obviously Winvic in the fullness of time and other key suppliers. Just turning now perhaps to Q&A. I mean, I hope that what you've heard about the company or the companies is useful, if not critical, to the project. But what you've heard about the project gives you enough to take away in terms of what it includes, what it doesn't include for the moment, the programme initially, the current activities on site, and obviously then the detail of the employment scheme. You've got that document in front of you, and indeed we welcome comments on that. So I'm hoping that this is 45 minutes well spent in your day to bring you all up to date with all of that. I don't think we've got any specific questions as it stands. If you do, please send them through in a moment. But one thing, I suppose, from my perspective, it isn't and hasn't been commented on within the presentation, and something that we have been beginning to grapple with, is transport and access for those seeking the opportunities on site. Now, as and when the scheme is up and running, it will have an excellent sustainable transport proposition, and that's something that's being worked up as we speak with both the occupiers and our transport consultants. And that was a key element of the council's decision to support this project, or one of the key elements. However, in the short term, that obviously doesn't exist until we have the employees on site. So for me, I think getting people to site is going to be a critical part, and we can't do that on our own. So I'm actually going to invite all of the people on the call and those that couldn't make it to think about whether they can help us with that, because I don't think it's going to be one person's responsibility to make that happen. It's going to be more complicated in the short term by COVID-19. We can't do simple things like car share. And obviously some people will be concerned still around public transport or sharing buses. So I'm under no illusion that it might be a challenge. So we need to think as creatively as we can to make sure that people aren't prevented from getting to site and taking up these opportunities in the short term. I don't know whether anybody else in the panel have a view on transport and access, and actually the practicalities of getting people and connecting people, the need and the opportunity. Nope, that's fine. We'll leave that one there. I can see there is one question that's come in from Nicola, suggesting a new route via the A444 to Swadlincote to link with the EMEG service would be great. I'm assuming, Nicola, that's probably to do with the completed project, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. If that is the case, there is absolutely, as part of our Sustainable Transport Initiative, work ongoing, as I say, to look at the settlements. We're blessed in many respects in being, at the heart of those 6 local authorities and a growing conurbation, so we can draw labour. The site can draw labour from a number of locations in the fullness of time, and not just one location. Of course, we're also competing with other major developments and projects in the sub-region. So if that was the origin of the question, then certainly we're looking at how existing links could be complemented, modified, supported, or indeed whether it's a dedicated service that we would need to deliver, using technology to make sure it can be as efficient as possible. Okay. We have one from Emma. Community has been used in a wider term. Any targets around disability employment initiatives or scope to innovate. Steve, I'm going to ask you whether you wouldn't mind just commenting on that from your experience. From my perspective, absolutely not precluded. Perhaps Steve could comment, and then maybe Winvic will have a view on that as well, and turn to Rebecca.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It's certainly something that our colleagues at the Department for Work and Pensions raised with us as part of the consultation on the employment scheme, which is, what about disability confident, and what can be done, and we've kind of thrown it back slightly in the sense of, well, have we got examples within the construction sector of things that have been done well, practice that we can replicate. And we're certainly very happy to look at that, and certainly put those issues out in conversation to Winvic and the subcontractor partners. If you've got particular thoughts on it and ideas, really, really keen to hear what those are. More than happy to talk to people about that. So, yeah, let's have the conversation.
Rebecca, are you able to add anything to that from the Winvic perspective,
Yeah.
in terms of how you address that agenda in I guess in all of your projects, but particularly in these kind of projects?
Yeah, from Winvic again, we totally kind of echo what Steve and David have said, is that no one is precluded, so we'd be happy and really grateful, to be honest, to start that conversation to see what suggestions people have. What else can we do? How can we make it better? How can we facilitate more? Whatever the disability may be, let's have a look, whilst still bearing in mind the health and safety issues that are going to be concerns for people. But yeah, more than happy again to, as we say, to start those conversations, and let's see what we can do.
Emma, you have a three-way commitment to that conversation. So let's get in touch and perhaps talk about that in a little bit more detail if we can. Heather, you're not allowed to ask a question. No, you are, of course. So Heather's asked Steve whether you can clarify when the vacancies will begin to come through. I think that might be another double header with yourself and Winvic, but it has already started in a small way. But perhaps you could comment further, please.
Yeah, I mean, informally, this process has started. We mentioned the famous Mike, who's now one of the gatemen at the entrance to the site. He's actually taken a lot of inquiries from people who have seen the site and are inquiring directly. Sometimes people do, sort of knocking on the door, so to speak, and can I come and work here, kind of conversations. And because we've helped him into the role, he's been really very supportive of those individuals being referred back to us, so that we can, look at, speak to them and get, try to get hold of their background and what they're interested to do. And we're starting to see quite a bit of that. Probably up to about 4 or 5 individuals that have approached us on that basis. One person did come through the website as well. The conversations with the current contractors is in flow. So we're speaking with Collins, and I have spoken with them, and with JSJ, and we're just interested to see exactly what they are looking for and how they can help us on the project. So I don't really know. I can't really say for sure. There'll be 5 opportunities in 2 weeks' time. It's not quite as developed as that, but the point is that, again, I suppose we need to be realistic. People win the work and win the subcontracts because they are good at what they do, and by and large they have the workforce to do what they do. They can attract the workforce, and that's part of their selling point to be good at demonstrate their business. And it might be only at the margins that we've got some opportunities. Well, but there are some of the subcontractors who, have key members of the team, but then do recruit and pick up other people locally. Now, we know historically that can be word of mouth, it can be through agencies, and therefore these opportunities go unseen, and that's the process in the construction sector to some extent. And that's what we're trying to, drive into, you know, that sort of historical way of working and say there are partners who can deliver you with the right kind of people if you'll tell us about the opportunities and give us a chance to try and meet your needs. Those are the conversations that we're having sort of right now, and we'll get the opportunities out through the network once we form that network, you know, which is kind of there or thereabouts already, but you know, we'll embellish that network and make sure that the opportunities are going out as soon as we've sort of captured them. So that's where we're at with that, Heather.
Steve, there's another one coming your way, if I may. Feroz from DWP Leicester City, and continuing the theme, I guess, of targeted activity on priority groups, is inquiring, will the employment scheme or the programme be open to support groups such as ex-offenders, lone parents and fuller working lives? I'll leave you to answer that, but what I would say is I know from my from our conversations to this point with Collins in particular, that those are very much groups, certainly the ex-offenders, that they are more than happy to work with where they can, and have some pretty impressive track record, I think, of converting and getting people to, you know, stick to jobs. So Steve, anything you would like to proffer on that?
Yeah, happy to do that. I mean, we've specifically, if you look at the detail of the employment scheme, we've specifically referenced, you know, particular groups that we would want to reach out to and prioritise, and some of the ones that you've listed there in the question are you know, the exact same sort of targeted cohorts that we're talking about. So the answer is definitely yes, and I think you know, if you know, it really is a matter of, you know, who's doing what with whom, and you know what, and how can we tap into it, and how can we join in with that, to make the opportunities available at the right time. So very much keen to do that, and you know, you can sort of drop me a line afterwards, and we can look at how to marry things up.
Thank you for that. Rudy, do we have any dates in mind for when we'll be able to offer work experience or unpaid work placements? And do all candidates need a CSCS card prior to starting? I'll perhaps put this in the direction of Winvic to comment on, because I guess in the context of COVID-19, this is something we've been discussing and grappling and frustrated by, in truth, but we are where we are. I guess it's under review, but Rebecca, could you just tell us where you think you're at in terms of facilitating that kind of opportunity?
Yeah, giving specific dates is going to be difficult at the moment. We really have, when COVID kind of properly came into play and then we sort of went into lockdown, we stopped, you know, our work experience. We stopped a number of initiatives because we couldn't have excess people on site to protect all of our staff. And to protect, you know, new people coming onto site as well. You know, numbers do seem to be going down. Fingers crossed it keeps going that way. A number of cases, a number of deaths being reported continues to decrease. We can then hopefully get a bit more comfortable with looking at getting work experience placements on site. It's something we do a lot of. We have really good success in, and something we really like to do. At the moment, though, no, I don't think we can say a date of when we would be able to do that. We're really having to keep an eye on what is going on. We're still, you know, having to enforce our 2 metre distancing out on site. Numbers are lower, and we're having to really keep a very careful eye of how many people we have on site. A lot of our staff are still working from home because, again, we're not comfortable with them going out on site, increasing those numbers. So it's something we're monitoring really closely and really carefully, because we're keen to get work experience students back in. It's really good for them. It's really good for us. You know, we've had some great successes with work experience students where they then come back and work for us permanently. So, you know, selfishly from our point of view as well, we're really keen to get them on board. No firm dates at the moment. It really will depend, COVID-wise, how things continue to improve. With regards to them needing a CSCS card, yes, ideally, we would like people to have a CSCS card. We can then be confident that people have competency to be out on site. We do, however, have systems in place where people don't have CSCS. We can do our own internal training with them, mainly sort of covering health and safety, again, just to ensure that they do have competency to be out on site. And they would never be on their own anyway. You know, we wouldn't just have a work experience person come out on site and send them off to wander around site on their own. They would always be looked after. So ideally, yes, CSCS is great. We would love to see that. But as I say, we've then got our own processes in place if somebody doesn't have it.
Thanks, Rebecca. Emma, again, thank you for these, Emma. This question relates to demand for freelance or self-employment roles, demand for work, skills, how are these to be advertised, procurement, ad hoc, etc. I'll take from that the key element is how are we accommodating freelance or self-employment roles. And Steve, from memory, I don't think the employment scheme explicitly includes or excludes those kind of roles. Does it? And then perhaps Winvic might have a view on that as well in terms of what demand there might be. I guess there's probably quite a bit of it, but I'll leave them to answer.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't particularly make reference to freelance and self-employed roles. I mean, obviously, a number of people in the construction sector are self-employed, and how do they find out about work? Well, as I say, you know, a lot of people get referred by word of mouth or from friends, or just turn up at sites, you know, that sort of thing, in certain roles. And this is one of the challenges, isn't it? It's how to get the employers to, you know, to think differently about framing the job and, you know, where are they going to promote the job? Well, what we're saying to them at Mercia Park is, use this channel. You know, we are available to you as a set of local organisations, and we can help you to find the right people. So in other words, post your vacancy, define your vacancy, explain what you're looking for, and promote that vacancy through an agreed channel, which is basically our network. So in other words, you know, it would come out to the job centres, it would come out to the colleges, it would come out to all of the organisations that are part of the network, with a view to you, as I mentioned during the course of the conversation, with a view to you know, responding quickly, looking proactively for people that you think, you know, they might be alumni, you know, people who just finished a course or whatever, people who might be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities. So, you know, it is a challenge within the sector, and it's one that we're, you know, we're very much saying, you know, Mercia Park will deploy a system whereby vacancies and other opportunities can be promoted, and the local providers will respond to that. That's the message that we're giving to employers, and you know, and anybody associated with Mercia Park.
Thanks, Steve. Have you got anything to add to that, Rebecca or Matt? If you haven't, don't worry, but if you did, happy to hear.
I guess all I would add in, so just assuming I'm understanding it correctly, Emma, that demand for freelance or self-employed roles is saying that's that we would want people to be freelance or self-employed, our subcontractors. I don't know if you can type anything at the same time. The same as Steve, you know, the vacancies will be advertised, whether it be Winvic recruiting, whether it be one of our subcontractors recruiting. You know, there's a number of ways that people will come into business through permanent employment. As I said before when I was talking, you know, we have a number of freelancers, a number of people through agencies. You know, there's all manner of ways that people are sort of getting taken on. So they will be advertised in the same, excuse me, in a, you know, exactly the same manner. And it's really kind of up to people how they want to go and get paid.
Thank you for that. Conscious of time, but there's another one just to pick up. Rob Goodyear, Burton and South Derbyshire College. I think we can answer this one quite quickly. our Swaddling Coat campus is our construction academy. Will Winvic Steve be able to visit in the autumn to do a talk on the scheme with a view to taking work experience in industry placements? I think the answer to that one is yes. I've just volunteered both to do that and to explore the opportunity. And I think that's all we as a business, or not all we, that's what we as a business want the supply chain to do, is to explore the opportunities and convert as many of them as we practically can. It's not always easy, and it's particularly not easy now. But we're certainly committed to eking out all of those opportunities and thinking differently. It doesn't always cost money. Sometimes a bit of money is needed, but thinking differently to connect in different ways and try things differently. Okay, I think that's probably it. So we're just over, just after 12, so we'll wrap up there. I think just a final comment from me. We don't do many of these. These webinars are new to most of the people on this team. I hope you found it useful, but please do feedback if you feel that there are gaps in what we're sharing or telling, specifics that you would like to have seen that you haven't seen that we would have been able to provide. It's obviously still slightly early days and a moving feast, being on site a couple of months. And any more information that you would like that might help you understand the opportunity and therefore decide whether it's something you want to actively keep an eye on or get engaged in going forward. So a request to everybody out there, my blank screen, I'm just looking at this little dot on my screen and hoping there is anybody there still. And we'll leave it there. So thank you for attending. We'll circulate the video, we'll circulate the recording, we'll circulate the presentation to yourselves, those that couldn't make it, those that didn't reply. We're keen that we push the message out there, and we will hopefully be in touch with you soon. Many thanks.